Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Totally Premier League podcast. And this is the one I think everyone has been waiting for. It is, of course, the Premier League prediction show. Yes, we're going to predict the table from 20th to 1st. Yes. And as we all know, it is all about opinion, isn't it? It's all about opinion. But to join me, I have three fabulous guests, and you are very welcome to the show. I've got to say that someone who will be really looking forward to this season with definitely high hopes is Mr. Ali from Pride of South London Fan TV. Ali, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, mate. Been enjoying watching Crystal Palace on their way to an Olympic medal with Jean-Philippe Mateta, probably the greatest Olympian since Usain Bolt. All good. Optimistic, but a little bit worried that Man City are coming into some money because Eze, I think, is that last one we need to hang on to. So we'll talk about it in a bit, I'm sure. But very optimistic, mainly because of Glasner.
Yes, absolutely. I think Glasner has been a breath of fresh air since he's came into the Premier League. And I tell you, another team that had a really good season, one of their highest finishes, I think, in Premier League history, and highest points total was Bournemouth. And Mr. Craig from Up the Cherries in all departments has joined me as well. How are you, Craig?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. I'm not too happy about the Solanke talk at the moment. Of course, there is lots of rumours going around about him, but yeah, I'm hoping that we can kick on. But I think Solanke is a big part of that. Of course, it's not, as we've said all along. A lot of fans will just see him for the goals that he scores. But he does a lot more. You know that, I know that he'll drop back, he'll bring other players into play. So that's what Spurs, if they sign him, will be getting. I don't want him to go anywhere. I'm hoping that Bill Foley and Simon Francis and Thiago have got something up their sleeve to keep him at the club.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is all about keeping Solanke, I think. But then again, if you get big money, which I fully expect you to do, I think you can definitely invest in that. And my last guest is someone who will be hoping for 5 in a row, which has never been done in Premier League history. It's never been 4 in a row was never done in Premier League history before. But MCFC Tone, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, yeah. Thanks for having me on, and hello to the other two lads. Now, Craig said, I say off air, I still think I'm on like a radio show when I go on these channels. But when you said, Craig, just now about points deductions and things and not involving that in your thing, hopefully it won't involve any relegations either, because obviously my team's in a bit of hot water at the moment. So we might be relegated to the National League by the end of the season. Obviously, hopefully not. But thank you for having me on, Douglas. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. And yeah, just before we start, I will sort of ask you sort of your expectations for the season ahead. Ali, obviously last season, obviously Roy Hodgson came in last season, and he went in February. In comes Oliver Glasner. Pretty much transformed your hopes, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a funny season because the first half of the season was frustrating and then just really sad because it was just so unnecessary for Roy Hodgson to go out like that when they could have let him go out on a high last May. It was a weak decision, as the banners said, to reappoint him. And then Glasner just came in and is by a long shot the best manager I've seen at Palace. Like tactically, the system, and where he's so good is not actually with those players like Eze and Elise. The barometer for him was players like Will Hughes. He had Nathaniel Klein playing as a right-sided centre-back. He is the real deal, and keeping him and seeing off Bayern Munich was the real key for us. But obviously, Elise's gone. Gay, he's probably going to go this week, which Palace fans actually are remarkably calm about. Gay, he only played 2 games under Glasner because he was injured. So we know we can deal without him. But I think as I was saying off air, I think the swing barometer for us will be, can we keep Eze? Because I think if he goes, then the Stardust goes. And And when I've been a couple of teams like Bournemouth, as Craig was talking as well about Solanke, there's a few teams when you do these predictions where you're like, well, will they keep him? And for Palace, whether we're in the top 10 for me does depend on whether we can keep Eze.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously had some memorable results last season. Obviously, winning away at Anfield was very, very good.
Mate,
but
I'm not gonna lie, because you are my favourite. Well, actually, to be fair, I've got a few mates who are Liverpool fans, but you're one of my favourite Liverpool fans. But the whole Sky Sports narrative about Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool, it was like the biggest thing in the media since Princess Diana passed. And it was like, some sort of legacy tour. And then to go there and just completely pop the balloon with Jamie Carragher and all the bias on comms. I'm not going to lie, mate. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah. And then
beating Man United 4-0 at home as well.
Yeah,
it was a great run. And to be honest, what's pleasing is I can see the momentum continuing and the style of play and the intensity of the press has continued in pre-season as well. So I'm optimistic that we can continue that run. But obviously you got Mateta at the Olympics at the moment, so we need to get him back fit, and it's going to be an interesting few weeks with the transfer window, as we said as well.
Yeah, definitely. But another team that had a new manager coming in last season was obviously Bournemouth, and Craig, Andoni Iraola didn't start very, very well for him. I remember a lot of people actually had, I think, him to be maybe one of the first ones to potentially be sniped. I thought it was really, really harsh at the time because, you obviously had, Sheffield United, Burnley and Luton Town last season as well. But I've got to say, what he has done at Bournemouth, he's really given them a lift, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. I think, he's done an absolutely outstanding job. And to be honest, I was one of the people that turned around and I said, I just don't see it working. It's not because I don't like Andoni Iraola. I think he's an absolutely lovely guy. But at that early stage of the season, I couldn't see the players play into his style. He was trying to impose on them something that a little bit like Vincent Kompany last year at Burnley. Of course, Vincent Kompany had a little bit more time, mainly, and probably a bit too much time, to be fair. The main reason being is because of the promotion. He didn't have the players to play in that style in the Premier League. It all did click, but a little bit too late. Luckily, Andoni made it click, and I think what he did was go a little bit more direct. But the Everton defeat made me think, this just isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. We sat Gary O'Neill, who is a manager that, his football isn't attractive, but it's effective. That's what you're looking for in football. Is effective football to get you results. Gary O'Neill had some great scalps, as Tone will rightly remember. Of course, Wolves did beat Manchester City last year. So that was my main initial concern. But what a fantastic job he did after that Burnley game. It kind of kick-started our season. It wasn't a classic, but it just gradually got better. Probably the biggest point in the season has to be that win up at Old Trafford, where, let's be fair, we should have been about 5-6-0 up against them, probably at half time as well. It's not the fact as well that Man United were crap. Yeah, they were crap. But at the end of the day, we were miles and miles and miles better than them. So, yeah, I cannot. Thankfully, Bill Foley didn't listen to me. Didn't sack Andoni Iraola and didn't go for Jesse Marsch, because it would have been absolute failure if I had listened to me. But it was the only way I saw results coming at that point. But yeah, he's done a fantastic job. Don't listen to me. That's the moral of the story.
I remember when you Jesse Marsch. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what I was actually hearing. But I think Bournemouth have done magnificent, and I think you've got to say definitely high hopes for the new season. And obviously 4 in a row, Tone. It's never been done before. It was obviously done by Manchester City, and yes, you were taken to the final day again. This time by Arsenal. What are your hopes for the new season?
I think anything other than me saying we've got to go for the title would be a bit crazy. You know, if I said, "Oh, top four's fine," everyone would be like, "What?" Yeah, it's got to be the title again. The only thing I think that stands in City's way is that repeat, keep winning mentality, which Pep is very much a large part of the reason why they've done 4, because he demands and demands and demands the best each time. And I think he's going to have a hell of a job getting them to do it again for the 5th time, because human nature is you step off. You win. At some point, you're going to drop a little bit. But look, I've supported City since I went to my first game in 1987. So it's different nowadays. And I still even now struggle to comprehend, you know, how different it is and expectations. And, you know, you might win 5 on the bounce and then lose 1 and everyone's having a meltdown. And it's like, my God, if we'd have had that years ago, bloody well winning 5 and losing 1, I'd have taken that all day long. But yeah, it's got to be title. I think I won't give a spoiler because I know we're doing the table, but I think there's probably one other club who's our main threat. I'm not sure anyone else will be up there with us other than this one other club. But yeah, it's got to be title, I think, for us. And yeah, I think anything less, I don't know if it'd be a disappointment, because we've just won it 4 times and we've won God knows how many trophies under Pep, 20 or something crazy. But yeah, you see where I'm coming from. We appreciate what we've done and won, but the aim is always going to be the title.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's going to be a very, very interesting season. So yeah, let us crack on. So what I plan to do, we'll plan to do these in sort of 3s. So for the relegation, just obviously tell me your 3 to go down. And then we'll obviously go up 17th, 16th, 15th, and so on. You'll get there as well. Right. So kicking things off, 20th place for me is Southampton. Now, I like Southampton. I like what Russell Martin has done. I don't think they're as strong as they have been in previous years. It's not the same team. You know, the team that went down had a lot of Premier League quality. It still had sort of the likes of James Ward-Prowse and, you know, players of that ilk as well. It is a sort of it does feel like Southampton are sort of going back to sort of their old days. They've obviously got Adam Lallana coming back as well. They've obviously got Brereton Diaz, which I think is quite an interesting signing. It'll be interesting to see if he can actually get the goals. Che Adams is gone. Stuart Armstrong is gone. We'll still talk about Kyle Walker-Peters potentially moving on as well. So it's a difficult one. It always is difficult to predict bottom, but I just have a feeling Southampton have not got enough to stay in the league. 19th place, I've got Leicester City. Again, I question their transfer business. I'm looking at this. Fatawu, very good signing. Oakley, I think has came from obviously Atalanta. Michael Golden, I think from Chelsea. Obviously, that's obviously to do with the Dewsbury Hall did. Bobby Reid. Deckard Reid as well. They've lost Dewsbury Hall, they've lost Ian Atchell, Pratt, Albrighton, and they lost Enzo Maresca, the man who brought them up as well. And I do worry for Leicester. They are facing potential points. Don't know when that's going to be. We don't know when that is going to be. So yeah, I feel for Leicester. They've obviously got Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper has obviously kept up Nottingham Forest in the past, but I think it's just going to be a tall order for Leicester City. And the last team, this might surprise a lot of people. I've gone Brentford. Their end to the season last season was not great. It was not great at all. And I think you've got to say as well, Thomas Frank will be a manager in demand. Denmark have just got rid of Kasper Hjulmand. I worry that his head may be turned. His head may want to go to Denmark. And the other thing as well, where is Ivan Toney going to still be there? You know, they've obviously brought in that big centre forward, Igor Thiago, as well. And it's whether or not he'll be good enough for Brentford. They have still obviously got their main firepower, and obviously Mbeumo, who was injured for most of the season last season. They've still got Vissa. It's still a very, very good team. I do think they've been weakened slightly because obviously David Raya for me was one of their best players when he was in the Premier League for Brentford. And I just got a feeling this might be the season that we might say bye to the Bees. And obviously, don't pardon the pun. I think the Bees could get stung by going down,
I think,
unfortunately.
just on Tony, though, Douglas, because he was one of the ones I thought about, the swing barometer of a club if a player leaves. But I sort of put him to Tottenham. But with them going for Solanke, I'm not sure where Ivan Toney ends up. And I think a Brentford with Ivan Toney is very different to a Brentford without him. I can see him still being there.
Do you know what though? I've got an alternative view. So, of course, it looks like Spurs are going after Solanke. They're going after him quite heavily, which I think is going to call the hunt for Ivan Toney, especially from Spurs. If he might go elsewhere, he might go to Arsenal. You never know with Toney. However, I would be very, very reluctant if I was Thomas Frank of having Ivan Toney at that club next year. I would want the money and I would want to reinvest it because there's nothing worse than a player who, in the game against us, right at the end of the season, they beat us 2-1, but Ivan Toney was missing. We played poorly. Got to be honest. It was like playing against 10 men, though, because Ivan Toney was not interested. When he went to the Euros, his interest perked up again. So that is and I think that's probably what's putting off clubs because they'll think they don't want somebody who's going to sulk, who's not going to pull up their socks. He's being paid by Brentford to do a job. Most football clubs, and I spoke to Kieran Maguire about this. If Ivan Toney wasn't the player that he was with the resale value that he has, he would have been sacked by Brentford. But they stood by him, they've supported him, they brought him straight back into the side. And how's he repaid them? With nothing. And if I was Spurs or Arsenal or any other club, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and I was thinking, I actually quite like Ivan Toney. After the betting scandal and the not giving a toss, I wouldn't go near him. So I'm not surprised that Spurs have picked Solanke over Toney.
Did you see the thing though when he came back to trading first day after the Euros and they were all like clapping him in like he'd won the thing? I was like, what is this?
Yeah, that might be very true. So
that might be an ego thing. There are some City fans that actually want Ivan Toney ahead of.
I've seen that link. I've seen that link. Yeah,
which I don't see that happening at all. But football's a mad game. But we'll see. I don't see it.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't want him at Bournemouth. I would not want Ivan Toney. Solanke leaves. I would not want us to go for Ivan Toney. He probably wouldn't come here anyway. But the thing is because of his attitude, I don't want him to come in and upset a happy camp.
Very, very interesting. So, Ali, who are your three to go down?
So I've got Brighton in 20th. Nah, I haven't really. I really wanted to put, and I thought about it for a while, but I don't think I can put them there. I agree with you, Southampton. I think like they actually want to buy Rak-Saki permanently. And Rak-Saki is a great young player, but he's probably the best thing for him is a loan to the Championship this season. I think any Championship club that gets Rak-Saki are basically giving them a really good chance of promotion. I saw him at Crawley the other day in pre-season. But them being interested in him permanently says to me that they're almost preparing for being in the Championship again. Like they're almost building a squad that will be ready to come back up. So I think Southampton 20th. I've gone exactly the same with you. I'm sorry to Neil. Leicester 19th. I just think the combination of the probable points deduction for them being cheaters, and then sorry Neil, and then I think as well Steve Cooper. Even though I think he's a good manager, I just think the Forest connection when they have a few bad defeats. When you're fighting relegation, you need everyone on board and the fans and the manager and everyone aligned. I just think it'll be tricky for them. And then losing their manager. So Leicester, I think if they didn't have the points deduction, would be the one team out of the relegated clubs I would actually back to stay up. And if they kept their manager, but they haven't, so 19th for Leicester. I actually found the bottom three relatively easy, to be honest, because I've gone for all the promoted clubs again. I've gone Ipswich 18th. I just think I'm seeing some stuff from Ipswich fans on social media. I think they're being a bit naive, and I don't think they quite get what's going to hit them and how hard the Premier League is. I think they'll have a good go at it, but I think the problem is the teams that are from 17th up to 11th all have more quality in it, and I think Ipswich will be that sort of valiant team who go down on the last day. They got a great young manager.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he plays it. Is he going to be that attacking Ipswich we saw last season, or is he going to be a bit more tactical? You know, he sat alongside Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United in Champions League matches and stuff. How Kieran McKenna plays it, actually, I think will be one of the most interesting things to observe at the start of the season. But I have gone Ipswich 18th.
Yeah, so Ali has got all the 3 promoted teams to go straight back down. Craig, what are your 3 to go down?
Do you know what? I'm going to keep up the trend here of 2 sides, and then I'm going to introduce another one. So in 20th spot, I'm sorry to our friends down the M27. It's you lot. To be honest,
you're not sorry though, are you? You're not sorry.
To be honest, I'm quite pleased that they're back. You know, because we are stuck on our own in the middle of nowhere here. So unless Bristol City turn up already, you know, which isn't going to happen for a while. To be honest, we're stuck on our own. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Saints fans. I think you're going to finish in rock bottom. I think Russell Martin has done a good job to get them back out of the Championship. Remember, they were in turmoil. They went through 3 managers, Ralph Hasenhüttl, who I think really they should have kept hold of. Then they went to Nathan Jones, which was an absolute car crash. And then Ruben Sellers, who did a decent job, you know, tried to guide them around, but it was too little too late for somebody who was inexperienced at that level. So, sorry, Saints fans. I think you're going to finish bottom. 19th, though, is my differentiator, as I'd like to call it. So, of course, Ali, you've gone for Ipswich. Doug, you've gone for Brentford. I've gone for Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I honestly think that Nuno Espirito Santo, good manager, but again, you know, they did struggle at times last season. They do seem a side that, you know, they only narrowly survived last season. I just don't think that they've got, you know, just the quality. I think.
Do you not think with Elanga, Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi?
No,
They're in a lot of fantasy football teams, those players.
I honestly think that, you know, as an overall collective, Nottingham Forest are a mixed bag. And
what I'd argue back there is sometimes having a big crowd behind you can really help you in a relegation battle. And Forest have a really good atmosphere. I mean, I haven't got Forest much higher. I wouldn't argue too strongly against it. I don't think they will go down, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from in a sense.
I think, you know, with myself though, the from 14th downwards, these 7 sides I think are going to be a lot closer. And I think it's going to be a really tight finish, to be fair. You know, a couple of wins, say, for example, Southampton could keep them safe. A couple of defeats for the team in 14th, you know, they could be going down. So I think, you know, it's going to be a lot closer than it was last year, which, let's be honest, you know, it was quite some distance. In 18th, though, you probably guessed it, Leicester City. I just don't feel that they've got just enough. I think, you know, they probably will get points deduction.
Yeah, they will.
Which will probably put them bottom of the league for me. It's going to be that tight. You know, in my head, the points is going to be that tight that they could easily finish bottom of the league. So, yeah, personally, I think Leicester City, Steve Cooper, did a decent job at Nottingham Forest. I think, you know,
I actually think as well, if you took the Forest connection out, he's a good appointment given the points deduction. He's a very pragmatic appointment.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, agree with that. I think he did a good job at Nottingham Forest, and I think, you
really
know,
good job, yeah.
Without him, Forest probably wouldn't be in the Premier League as it stands at the moment. Okay, it did go a little bit off the boil, but personally, I think he would have finished in a better place than what Nuno did in the end. So, yeah, that's my bottom three: Leicester City, Nottingham Forest, and Southampton. But like I say, it's very, very close, this bottom seven for myself.
Yeah, I'm seeing a trend. So 3 out of the 4, I've got Leicester City and Southampton both being relegated. Tone, what are your 3 to go down?
Well, I've not got one of those in my bottom 3, and I will say this: I am friends with a lot of Saints fans, so that may well have had something to do with my picking on this. And it's wrong, and I shouldn't do it, but I still have. I'm soft, and one of my best mates is a Saints fan, so I'm trying to be nice, but
everyone's got their faults, Tone.
Yeah, I do worry. I definitely worry about them and Russell Martin's style of play. And if he's stubborn and doesn't adapt, because they were open in the Championship, you do that in the Premier League with the teams who will punish you. You're in for a good hiding. So I'm perhaps doing it more out of hope that they stay up. But in 20th, I've got Leicester. Possible points deduction, you boys have mentioned already. Dewsbury Hall, one of the best players going.
No one even mentioned that,
yeah. And Maresca, look, that may not be as big of a miss. Possibly, we'll see how he does at Chelsea, but it's still disruption, and disruption they probably don't need, even though they have appointed a good manager, like you guys say. But I'm just not convinced with Leicester, and I think they're another one that I guess the manager now might change the way Maresca had it. I think they're better built to stay in the Premier League than they would have been under Maresca because of the way he plays. If you see what I mean, even though I've got Leicester in 20th, I would give them still more of a fighting chance with their current manager in this club. I think he's more suited to Leicester than Maresca will be in the Premier League. I've got Forest 19th. And I'll be honest, someone said to me the other day, a Forest fan actually said, "We've just bought Elliot Anderson. He's world class." And I was like, going, "Hang on a minute, I'm not sure he is. 35 mil for your big summer signing, and look, I'm sure he's a decent player, and I hope he does well. But Forest have been sort of in and around that bottom 3. I don't think they've improved. They're certainly not that I can see." And I take on board what Ali said about the ground and stuff, and it's a top club and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think this one they may just slip out. And in 18th, I've also gone Brentford. I've gone Brentford, and I've got on my little notes that I've made, I've got Ivan Toney ? Which isn't so much is he going to go. Like you guys hinted at, is he going to turn up? Like Craig said, is he going to actually turn up here? I'm not so sure. And Brentford, again, look to me like a team. They've got a good manager, but they look like they're a team that are just on the down, slowly trickling down. They're not really investing, in my view, in enough quality, and eventually you'll get found out. And I think they'll go down, but they'll certainly be in that bottom 6. That's for absolute sure.
Interesting. So yeah, difference of opinion, definitely there. It's quite interesting as well. Two of us have gone for Brentford, and Forest seem to be a bit of a talking point as well. So we'll move on. So 17th, I've got Ipswich Town. I actually think they'll give it a real good go. I thought Luton Town last season went down due to their injuries, not really due to their form. Obviously they did lose 4-3 to Bournemouth after being 3-0 up, which was mad, absolutely mad. And I know obviously Craig will know that result anyway. But yeah, for me, Kieran McKenna, very good manager. Back-to-back promotions from League One all the way to the Premier League is absolutely amazing job. And I think they've signed really well. Hutchinson, Greaves, Delap, Muric as well. I think they've signed some real good players there as well. 16th, I have Forest. Again, I'm going to say this. I think Nuno is one of the favourites to be sacked first. We know Marinakis is not a patient man, We know from his time at Olympia, he certainly isn't patient with managers. So yeah, I've just got a feeling that they'll just survive again. And I've seen people put them higher. I'm just not sure about them. And the worry for me is defensively they look really, really poor, but midfield and attack they look really, really good. 15th, I've got Wolves. Now I've moved Wolves down a bit because, well, obviously it's only one position down, but my worry is they lose Neto. That's a bit of a blow. There is potential talk about Neto potentially being a Spurs target as well. Gary O'Neill, very good manager, very good manager. I think Max Kilman is a massive blow, though. I think to lose him to West Ham, and we'll obviously get on to West Ham later in the show. But yeah, for me, I just think Wolves are a team that I think they are sort of now a Premier League side. I think they're now a side that will just be sort of mid-table, not really sort of getting towards the heights of that top 10. I think they're a team that are going to be in and amongst the pack there. So yeah, I've gone 17th Ipswich, 16th Nottingham Forest, and 15th Wolves. Craig, what is your 17th to 15th?
Well, 17th, I agree with you. Brentford are there. Personally, I think Thomas Frank has done a very, very good job at that football club. I agree with everybody that they are on the descent. But personally, I'm a little bit worried about Ivan Toney if he stays at the football club, not if he goes. I think, if he leaves the football club and Brentford take the money and then reinvest that, I think that would be better for them. So Brentford, very, very big question mark over them because of Ivan Toney, but I think they'll just scrape it. Like I say, it's going to be very, very tight, this 14th to 20th. Next up, 16th, Ipswich Town. I think Kieran McKenna has done a fantastic job going from Bracknell Town a couple of years ago in the FA Cup to then go into the Etihad, the Emirates, and of course Dean Court, the highlight of his Premier League stint, I'm sure. But yeah, I think he will see him safe. And there's a big thing in football about momentum. And, I spoke to Omid Delaji, the comedian and actor, a very, very famous comedian actor who actually is an Ipswich and Chelsea fan as well. And, we was discussing that and the momentum, and that is going to be key for them. They have got a good squad of players already that come from the Championship. They've got a squad that know how to win. It's how they cope with having defeats when they go to Man City and get beat like most teams will do. That's the big question mark. How do they respond to that? If Kieran McKenna, which I think he will do, keeps them grounded, I think they'll be fine. Like I say, it's going to be tight. Couple of defeats, they're down. And 15th, this might surprise everybody. I think Fulham. Marco Silva, again, has done a good job, at Craven Cottage. I was a little bit unsure about them at times last season. And are they going to get any better? I think they're going to probably... Yeah, I think they could probably get the descend a little bit. So yeah, that's 17th to 15th for me. Unless you want me to go to 14th, which is going to be the next one up, and that's where I think between 14th and 13th there's going to be a bit of a gap.
Well, we will get there. We'll get there for sure. Yeah. Tone, what is your 17th to 15th?
Well, 17, I kept Saints up, but only just. In fact, on goal difference. All right, Saints fans, anyone watching this back? My mate will be. I know that. So, yeah, I've kept you up. But, yeah, I said earlier, but Russell Martin's style definitely concerns me. But I think Downs was a key signing because he was their best player last season. That's an excellent signing, really good player. And with respect to Saints, he will be at a club further up the table in years to come, I think. Harwood Bellis as well, who they bought off us for 20 mil. Again, one of their best players, solid at the back, was good at Burnley before. He's good. it'll be interesting to see how he copes in the Premier League. He's had 2 really good seasons in the Champ, but yeah, we'll see how he gets on. And I think Ronnie Edwards from Peterborough's meant to be good as well. I've heard a lot of good things about him from people I know, so that could be a good signing. But yeah, I don't say, you can probably tell, I don't say it with much confidence that they'll stay up. It's more in hope. But yeah, I'll have them. If they're going to stay up, it will more than likely be 17th. I've got Ipswich 16th. I think the thing with Ipswich is they've got a really good manager, as you guys have said. Also, the ground. And I think that could play a key part because they'll get a good atmosphere there at Portman Road, and more so possibly than some of the bigger, like maybe St Mary's, which is a bit more of an open, if you see what I mean. It doesn't have that on the pitch type feel that perhaps Ipswich have, which will help them, I think. They've invested about 70 million already. I think Ipswich spent a lot of money, 20 on Delap again from us, who, to put it bluntly, was piss poor in the Championship. He's got something to prove. If they can get a tune out of him that City saw in the academy, they've got a player. Delap is a good player, strong. He could certainly, and all the best to him. I hope he does it. But yeah, I've got Ipswich in 16th. Again, mainly because of that ground and the crowd, and if they can get behind the team, and that will be key for them, that they lose 3 or 4 on the bounce, they still keep going to these games when the teams turn up. And the Liverpool playing first, I think, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be quite an interesting game as well. I think there could be, you never know, it could be a little shock on there. Sorry, Douglas. 15th, I've gone Wolves. Gary O'Neill's done a brilliant job. Really, really good. Very surprising. A lot of people had Wolves going down last year. I think I was one, and a lot of people I know had them going down. But again, very similar to Brentford. I only see their trajectory as going down now. I can't see them sustaining it. So I think they will just drop off, but they won't go down.
Very interesting. Ali, what's your 17th to 15th?
Yeah, this bit I found the hardest. 17th to 11th. I could have kind of put any order, to be honest. Mine actually changed today based on a rumour that, I'm sorry to say, Craig, I think will happen. Solanke to Tottenham has made me put Bournemouth in 17th. And actually, just listening to you speak about all the stuff, I didn't realise how good he was off the ball and stuff like that. I think it could have a massive impact on Bournemouth's season, because, to be honest, I'd have had them much higher towards the 11th space if that rumour hadn't come out today. But I can see Levy going for this. They've got the Harry Kane money still. It'll be an interesting battle. What I was thinking, Craig, was I was wondering is, what is Solanke's contractual situation? How many years has he got left on that contract?
I believe he's got about 2 or 3.
Right.
I'll position it 2.
Yeah.
2 years. So it's either a case of we tie him into a longer contract. He is reportedly, and again, nobody can be for sure, but it's reported that he's on close to 100,000 a week,
Right.
which, to be honest, for the size of club we are, is quite a chunk. And
do you see your board? So, for example, Steve Parish is an absolute menace. Like, he stopped Arsenal getting Wilfried Zaha. He saw off Chelsea for Elise, and we got him for another year. Do you see your board fighting this with menace? Because I think they're going to need to. Because from the Bournemouth board's point of view, however, it's worth hundreds of millions to stay in the Premier League. Is it worth taking 70 million for Solanke when he, for me, guarantees you safety?
It's a very, very difficult one, because we've got Enes now. Now, Enes Unal is injured at the moment, a bit of a different type of striker. Semenyo can play that there as well. So he can play in that position. And he probably, I think he could do what Solanke does. Probably not as well, but to a level. So I think we would be fine. But, and the big question here is, I think, if we move Semenyo into the centre up front, which I think he can play, we'll then need somebody else or more cover over that left-hand side. Who would that be? What does that look like? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
I think, I just think it's it's a big variable, and I think there's a big difference for me between Semenyo and Solanke. So, I've just gone on a gut feeling that I think that deal will happen. I've gone Bournemouth 17th, and that has changed based on that. I've gone Wolves 16th. Similar things that what others have said. Losing Kilman, I think it's second season with O'Neill. I think he's a good manager, but kind of the effect might wear off a bit, but they'll be comfortable enough, I think. And then 15th, I've gone with Forest based on what I've said about the atmosphere. And I think they've got enough quality in there in the likes of Elanga and Gibbs White. I think they will have enough quality. For me, if they hadn't had the points deduction, they would have been there and about around 15th anyway last season. So, yeah, 17th Bournemouth, 16th Wolves, 16th Forest.
Interesting.
Right.
Well,
17th Bournemouth, 16th Wolves, 15th Forest.
Yeah, absolutely. 14th, I've got Everton. Final season at Goodison Park, and they actually had the third best defensive record in the Premier League last season. I was quite shocked when I heard about that, but actually, when you look at it, Pickford had the second most clean sheets. Jared Bramthwaite, they managed to keep him so far. I think that's a really, really good move for them. Some of the signs they made: Jake O'Brien, Elman Ndiaye. As well, Jesper Lindstrom's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to see what he can do. Outgoing, obviously, Onana's a big miss. Godfrey, Lewis Dobbin, of course, Andy Lonergan wasn't really a third choice goalkeeper. He's gone as well. But yeah, for me, Sean Dyche teams, he keeps him up. So I think Everton will go up a place. 13th, this was difficult. I've got Fulham 13th, but I have a feeling that they could be there or thereabouts, potentially trying to challenge the top 10 almost. Some of their sides, Emile Smith-Rowe, obviously getting him from Arsenal, £32 million. I mean, 34 million a couple of seasons ago when you got Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, etc. It's just the market. It's just the inflated market at the moment. So they brought Ryan Sessegnon back as well, but the big miss is João Palhinha. João Palhinha, I think, has been top of like tackles, clearances. He has been a fantastic servant for Fulham, so I think he'll be a big miss as well. And then 12th, I've got Brighton. Now, I know it's going down a place, but they're a bit of an unknown. They might do well, or they might struggle. They've got a new manager, Fabian Hürzeler from SC Pauli, who have just obviously reached the Bundesliga, so congratulations to them. But yeah, they're a weird one. They're a weird one for me. And I have a feeling that they might just be short of getting top 10. So I've gone Everton 14th, 13th Fulham, and 12th Brighton. Tone, what is your 14th to 12th?
I've got 14 Brighton. I think they are due a drop-off. I think, to be fair to Brighton, they haven't actually sold that many. I know Gross has gone, hasn't he? He's gone over to Germany, I think. And they've spent a bit. I think they've spent like 70-odd mil. So they've invested a bit more. But I worry a bit about Brighton in the fact that they have, for the last couple of years, sold all their best players. And yeah, the business they've done, unbelievable. You know, the money they've made, Casido, I mean, he's bloody hell. Mad money. One of the best run clubs in the Premier League. But at some point, I always think that will come to bite you. And I think we will find out, Brighton will find out this season that it's going to be tougher. I don't think they'll go down, but I think they'll struggle a little bit more this season, Brighton. I think teams will find them out a bit more as well. So, I think Brighton will certainly be in 14th that way. 13th, I've got Everton. The key for Everton, they could easily go down with the team they've got. The key they've got, whether they like it or not, is Dyche in charge, because he knows how to win ugly. You said his defensive record. Now, I know some Everton fans, I'm sure you lads probably do. And all they do is moan about the style of playing. It's that, look, lads, what do you expect with the players you've got? Like they used to have a dig at Lampard. Now, I'm not saying Lampard's some genius bloody manager, but the expectation with Everton and the current state they're in and the players is to surely stay up. And Dyche will keep them up. It won't be pretty. It'll be bloody awful to watch, but they'll keep a few clean sheets and I think he'll keep them up. And look, if Everton sort the money out and invest, then great, get a new manager like Palace have. They've got this really good manager and go out and play the nice football, but they don't have the players and that to do it. And Dyche is perfect for them at the moment. In my opinion. 12th, who've I got there? Fulham. I thought I was going to put them lower than this because of the players they've lost. You mentioned, how do you pronounce it? Is it Polinia or something?
Polinia.
That Reed as well has gone and Tosin's gone from the back. I think he's gone to Chelsea, which is a bit weird. And they've got Smith Rowe, as you said, some Arsenal fans told me a couple of years ago he was better than De Bruyne, which there might have been milking that one a tad. And I do remember it, trust me. And Sessegnon as well has come back, hasn't he, I think. So I say 12th with Fulham, but as I look at that, I could see them dropping lower than that and maybe down to 14th, 15th even. So, 12th Fulham, but not convinced with that. When I look at it, actually, I'd probably swap them with Everton.
Well, interesting. Craig, what is your 14th to 12th?
So 14th is Wolves, my good friend Gary O'Neill. Another solid season. I think they are probably lacking in a bit of strength in depth, but I know what Gary does. And Gary is a fantastic manager with a side like that. He's a fantastic manager down here because he seems to get the best out of players or the best out of teams to get the points. That is what he did here. If we tried to play anything apart from what Gary did, we would have got relegated that season. So I think Gary will effectively, play maybe some, boring, turgid stuff. The Wolves fans won't be particularly too over enthralled about it, but it will be effective. It won't be sexy, but effective. So they're my 14th. 13th, I've got Brighton and Hove Albion. I think they're due a drop off. I think Roberto De Zerbi leaving the club is not going to be, I think it's really going to hurt them. Fabian Hertzler, I think, he's, he's a decent manager. What he's done at St. Paul is good. But I think, they're probably going to have a drop off this season. Towards the end of last season, they didn't look particularly too great when they come down to Dean Court. In fact, we destroyed them. I've got Brighton 13th. However, I think it's going to, and I'm so sorry to say this, Ali, and, but I have put Crystal Palace in 12th, but I think it could be a battle between yourself and Brighton. I have put you above them, so don't worry.
Fair enough.
I think.
Thanks for that.
No problem. I think what you said earlier on, with regards to Eze and Mark Gay, I would be really concerned about that. I really like Mark Gay. I think, he's a fantastic defender. I think, in fact, he is one of the best defenders in the Premier League, central defenders. So, he would be a massive loss.
Just bear in mind on Gahey, on Glasner's run, he played 1 or 2 games. So that's why Palace fans are quite, you'd be surprised, they're remarkably calm about losing Gahey because we've already shown that we can cope without him. But I do agree with you. If we lose Eze, for me, I would even consider us as low as 14th.
I think, though, possibly the biggest. Well, the way I look at Crystal Palace, and of course, I had Harry Redknapp talking to me fairly recently on my show, and we spoke about Eze and Elise playing together. Now, Elise and Eze seem to work in tandem with each other. When, after, of course, Roy left the club, Oliver Glasner had that for a spell. Elise and Eze, just some players have that relationship. Some players
Yeah.
have that connection. Of course, Elise's already gone to Bayern Munich. Eze is possibly going to be following him out the door. But Eze will need another partner, and he need to
Yeah.
build that relationship up quickly. And just that's a little bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, I
even
think.
if Eze
Well, I think
stays.
if you're any side in the world, I mean, Man United lost someone of Michael Elise's quality, and we're seeing it at the Olympics at the moment. It are going to suffer. So I think personally, some Palace fans are being a bit naive about how much of a loss that is. In terms of, I'm not going to use the word replacement because you're not going to find a replacement for someone like Michael Elise. We have brought in Kamada from Lazio, who's worked under Glasner before. He looked very intelligent from what I've seen in pre-season. But it's just him and Eze, seem quite similar. So whether they would work together, I think they're both intelligent enough footballers to make it work. And obviously we've brought in Ismail Assar from from Marseille, who used to play for Watford. But what surprised me about him was he's 26. So he's got pedigree and can score goals, but it doesn't negate the loss of someone of the talent of Elise. I think that's probably going to hit us more than I think some Palace fans do realise. So yeah, I can see this. It's a fair assessment. I think I put something on my social media earlier about to Palace fans where they think will finish. It tends to be from 8th to as low to 13th.
Interesting.
I tell you what, the new England manager, whoever that is as well, should have as part of the job description to convince Michael Elise to play for England, because he can. He was born in Hammersmith, believe it or not. So he could play for England, but I think it's either his mother or father is French. So that's why he's represented their youth sides. I think it needs to be in the job description. I don't think it will work. I think he's very entrenched in playing for France, and I think once this Olympics is over, actually, I think both him and Jean-Philippe Mateta will go to the full squad. I think that's done. If I was England manager, I would play Eze in his actual position, which is as a 10 rather than left wing back like Southgate did. Yeah, agree.
And also, if don't go to a tournament without any left footers when you got Tyrick Mitchell could have gone as well. But I don't think 12th is by anywhere way an unfair assessment. I don't think you get too much of a shout back from Palace fans on that.
No, fair
so,
enough.
Ali, what's your 14th to 12th?
I've gone Fulham in 14th. I like Fulham. I think Smith Rowe is an interesting one because Palace were linked with him. But in the end, I agree with them. I think the value was too high based on his injury record in the last few years. And I think that's what will be key for Fulham is, will he stay fit? But he already scored, didn't he, in a pre-season game at the weekend? So I like Fulham. I like the manager. I think 14th is probably a fair assessment of where they'll finish. 13th, and to be honest, this is probably where I've disagreed the most so far with the panel, is I've gone with Brentford. And again, I think probably maybe that's based on this Solanke rumour, is that it's kind of made me think that Ivan Toney might be staying because the club I really put him to was Spurs. But I just really think, for me, Thomas Frank is, whenever they come to Palace, he has them set up so tactically well. I think, actually, I'd love to see him manage a sort of top 10 team at some point. So for me, I think Brentford will be all right, 13th. And then in 12th, as much as I wanted to relegate them, I've put Brighton. They were actually, to me, out of all the teams, the hardest teams to judge, because this manager is a complete unknown. So who knows how it's going to end up, because they have got some talented players. What's key for them is, I don't think Ferguson, the striker, kicked on as much as people thought last season. I mean, he had a few injuries, and I think Matoma didn't have as good a season. And they've also lost, is it Gross, who has an insane amount of assists. So that will be key as well. So I don't know. I think they'll probably come 12th, as much as I'd like to see them relegated and Lewis Dunk sat on his arse like he can do. But I've gone Brighton 12th. So that's 14th Fulham, 13th Brentford, 12th Brighton.
Right. 11th Bournemouth. I think you will be there or thereabouts between now and the top 10. I think it is coming. I think a top 10 finish is coming. And I like what you guys are doing, and I think getting the two lads from Juventus is very, very good as well. So looking forward to seeing that. 10th place, Crystal Palace. Again, I don't think it's so much Guehi. I think you can sort of, be that team. Obviously, you have got the new lad, Chadley Riad, who I think came from La Liga, didn't he? He came from La Liga.
Yeah,
Daisuke Kamada.
Really,
yeah, I'm going to be honest. Kamada is a player I've always liked. I think he's going to be very, very good as well. And as Myla Sarr to replace Elise, I think that is a cracking bit of business. To say the very least.
I think Sarr is not one of those like sexy signings where the fans get the fans like going, oh, look at getting out YouTube clips. But he's a very solid signing. What shocked me about him was because initially Palace fans were like, oh, is it 2022? Because we were linked with him 4 years ago. He's only 26. So I think what he brings is a directness that Eze and Kamada perhaps doesn't have.
Yeah, it feels like he's been around for a long time. The fact he's only 26 is quite remarkable. Right, this is the one that's going to shock everyone. 9th, Chelsea. They are a mess. They are an absolute mess. What is the transfer policy? Honestly, I can't understand a team that spends so much money and looks ridiculously bad. Worse
seems to be to sell their academy players.
I mean, honestly, Enzo Maresca's gone in there. I feel sorry for him. He has gone into an absolute car crash of a team.
Do you think he'll last the season, Doug? Do you think Maresca will last the season? You don't?
No, I don't. No, because Poch started to get on a good wee run, and they got rid of him.
Yeah,
they got rid of him.
I think
for me, Chelsea, I just don't know what the transfer policy is. Signing all these young players, expecting them to be good. It's all right doing that, but what if they they don't do? And again, like Adebayo is a good signing. He's a good signing from Fulham, but they haven't sorted the striking problem. Nicholas Jackson, if you go into the season with Nicholas Jackson, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle massively. Conor Gallagher's gone. Is gone to Atletico. Thiago Silva, they've lost their main leader. They've lost their main leader. And the other thing as well, they brought in the guy Jorgensen from Villarreal. Petrovic is better than Robert Sanchez and Jorgensen. So I don't understand. I do not understand why Chelsea have brought in another goalkeeper. They've got 41 players in their squad at the moment. Honestly, they're a mess. Todd Bowley just does not have a clue what he is doing there. And sorry, I just think they're going to miss out on a top 8 finish. I honestly think they finish a lot lower than many people predict them to. And I've got them 9th. So. Yeah, 11th Bournemouth, 10th Crystal Palace, and 9th Chelsea. So, Tone, 11th to 9th, please.
11 Bournemouth, if they keep Solanke. If not, and they don't replace him, they're in a bit more, they'll drop a few. But, yeah, I think they're a solid team, well managed. Again, another team with a close ground, get the atmosphere going. Teams can find it difficult there. So, yeah, all for it. I like Bournemouth. I've been to the ground a few times. So, yeah, I think not that has anything to do with them finishing 11th. But, yeah, I think they've got just a solid team. I think they're a Premier League team and they'll be around that mid-table. 10th have gone Palace. Arguably one of the best teams in the Premier League for the last few months. We played them now. I think the score was like 4-1 or something, but it wasn't a 4-1. And I saw Palace otherwise as well, and they were terrific. Good manager, good players. At least he will be a miss, there's no doubt. But like you guys said, Sar's a good signing. Must keep Eze, absolute must. Obviously, in a way, I hope you don't. Sorry, Ali, because if you don't,
you don't
possibly,
need him. You've got enough players. Can you just give us one
Yeah.
more year? That's all I want is
Yeah.
one more year. Just because I think Glasner will be gone within a year anyway. Just one more year. You don't need him. Give Bob a chance.
To be honest, I don't think we'll go for him as a now, because I think we've got enough for there and Oscar Bob and people coming in. But yeah, I think they're very good, really good, exciting manager there. And again, and I know I've said this about a few teams, but another one that get that ground going, the atmosphere going, encloses teams in, teams find it difficult to play there. And yeah, just based on what I saw with Glasner and Palace last season, very, very, very impressed with them. But they're very good. 9th, and I bloody hope this happens, so you know what I'm saying now. Manchester United.
Wow. Okay.
They finished 8th. Well, they finished 8th last year.
Yeah.
Don't forget. And I'm not seeing it now. United fans tell me, this new, how do you pronounce the striker? Begins with Z. I can't remember his name.
Xerxes.
So they say, he walks into City's team. Are you sure? Because he's behind Weghorst or whatever he's bloody called. So if he's behind him, I don't think he's going to be ahead of Haaland. But look, I'm obviously a City fan. I don't like United. I'm very, very, very biased. Anyone will tell you that. But I don't get it. I'm not seeing it with United. I don't see it whatsoever. They finished 8th last year. I don't think they've got any better. Thank God they've kept Ten Hag because he's useless. So they may finish 6th or 7th, but I think they'll drop to 9th. So 9 United, 10 Palace, 11 Bournemouth.
Chelsea and 9th, Manchester United and 9th. That's a shout. That is a shout. Ali, you're 11th to 9th.
I've gone Everton in 11th, just because I think Dyche will. I think they've got, to be honest, a far worse squad than, for example, Bournemouth, who have put 17th. But I just think Dyche will Dyche his way to mid-table, won't he? So Everton in 11th for me. This one will probably surprise people. I've put Aston Villa in 10th.
Wow.
And I think, for me, that I don't think they're going to have a bad season. I think FFP has screwed them, their opportunity, because it's denied them really going out and building on it. I was looking at their transfers. Yes, they got Nana, but I was thinking, have they got added some more stardust? Because I think Watkins will be a marked man next season. And I just think, even though Unai Emery is very experienced at combining European football and league football, I just think that combination, I know they played in Europe last year, but Champions League's another level. And I think I think the top 10 for me, I think will be strong, actually. I've gone Villa in 10th, and in 9th, I've gone Palace. Maybe a little bit of bias, perhaps pushing them within the top 10. But I just think Ollie Glasner, he's such a good manager. I mean, there was 2 games, actually not one of the bigger games last season. I think we played Newcastle and West Ham at home, and within 20 minutes, the opposition was just, I saw their players literally looking around each other like, what is going on here? Our pressing was so intense. And I just think, for me, though, the variable will be Eze. I think if Eze left, I would have him in a similar position to Craig has us, maybe even a bit lower. The other variable for me, for Glasner, will be what he does when teams start to really study his system and come up with plans to negate his system. Has he got that adaptability? That's what I'm waiting to see from him. But he is, not that it's that hard, by far the best manager I've seen at Palace, and should have got the Bayern Munich job. And if you understand it, was in line before Vincent Kompany, which is the biggest myth in the entire world, that he got that Bayern Munich job. Burnley were the worst team I saw at Selhurst Park last season. But I've gone Palace in 9th, Villa in 10th, and Everton and Prince Harry's real dad, Sean Dyche, in 11th.
I like that. I do like that. Craig, 11th to 9th, mate.
11th, ready for some shithousery? We have got Everton, which, let's be honest, Sean Dyche is the expert at that, isn't he? I completely agree with you, Ali. He's going to make it awkward. He's going to make it difficult. He's going to, they're not going to play attractive football. But again, very much like Gary O'Neill, it's effective. Just Dyche is the granddaddy of it. So yeah, I think Everton will finish their last season at Goodison in 11th place, which I'm sure will please their fans. In 10th, and this is a side that hasn't been mentioned so far, and I'm wondering, I'm quite excited to find out where you've put them. West Ham United, I think, will finish in 10th. I think Lopetegui, first season, can he change the style? That was one of the biggest concerns of Harry Redknapp. It's all well and good, bringing in and saying, "Oh, David Moyes doesn't play attractive football. We don't like it." Of course, Moyes got a right bashing from the West Ham fans, but sometimes, has he got the players to actually play that style? A little bit like what I was concerned we didn't have last season, right at the very start. I think he's getting there. I think Somerville, I really like him. Fulkrug, I think he's going to be a good signing. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a transition period. I think the following season, West Ham, if Lopetegui doesn't jump ship, which he's very good at doing, that's one thing that Wolves fans found out. I think they probably will push a little bit higher, but I've got West Ham in 10th. But for first season under Lopetegui, don't think that's too bad. And then I've a little bit of bias here. I've got ourselves in 9th. It would match our highest ever finish. I think we will beat our points record next season. Of course, the points record is 48 at the moment after last season. It wasn't our highest finish. Our highest finish was under Eddie Howe in our second ever season in the Premier League, so the 2016-17 season. A great achievement, of course, had Jack Wilshere in the side then. A lot of it probably does rely and rest on Solanke, but there's talks that they have got a contingency plan. Now, this is very much like what Brighton does. And if, say, for example, and like they found out, Roberto Zerbi has left, they've got their next man lined up. Like when Potter left, they knew who to bring in straight away. I think we're trying to replicate that model. How well they're going to replicate that model, I'm not so sure. But let's be fair. Simon Francis, Richard Hughes before him, Thiago, they haven't bought in any what I would call donuts. Even Eddie Howe bought in some donuts in the likes of Jordan Ibe. Remember him, Doug? Jordan Ibe?
I do remember Jordan Ibe, yeah.
Yeah, he was bloody useless. You absolutely fleeced us for 15 million. I wouldn't have paid £5 for him. So, yeah, to be perfectly honest, I think we'll finish in 9th. And some more good transfer business to come.
Can I just say, I love how both me and Craig have gone for 9th. Because, Craig, did you think about 8th? And I thought, no, I've got to stop here or I'm going to be accused of extreme bias.
Yeah,
but I was tempted to go higher.
I thought, of course, 9th is our highest finish. I did mention to Harry Redknapp, I said, well, can we get into Europe? Come on, Harry, let's try and work out a way we're going to plot our European path. And he didn't say, don't be fucking stupid, but, I knew that was what he was thinking. So probably not this season, maybe next season. But yeah, of course, Solanke, if he does go, which looks like it's probably going to happen, will be a big hit. And yeah, like yourself, Ali, I think we could finish quite a few places lower.
I think there's so many variables still to come. I mean, you've got Wolves and Neto, and then you've got, obviously, as we've been talking about, Brentford and Ivan Toney. So, yeah. I mean, that's 4 clubs with the swing parameters going to depend hugely on those players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See how difficult this is. This has been.
It's really
This
hard.
has
Really
been.
is tough.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Right, 8th place West Ham. I think they have had the best window out of anybody. Nicholas Füllkrug, how they managed to get him from Borussia Dortmund is something else. Somerville. I mean, I'm already looking at that attack. Somerville, Füllkrug, Bowen, Paqueta, Kudus. I mean, my goodness me, that's a hell of a front five. That's a hell of a front five to have. So, yeah, I think Lopetegui's doing a really good job. And, you know, they brought in Guido Rodriguez as well. I think that was a free from Betis. They could potentially be getting Adam Mbasaka as well.
Yeah.
It's really good signings from Lopetegui. 7th, they finished their last season, Newcastle. I think they will really go for it. I think they'll really go for it. Again, there's question marks whether, you know, Anthony Gordon, you know, whether his head's been turned by obviously the Liverpool rumours as well. There is talk Almiron potentially could be, you know, leaving as well. And I know there's a man down to my right who really wants Bruno Guimaraes. Sorry, Todd. But yeah, I think Newcastle will be absolutely fine. And then 6th, I don't care if this upsets anybody. I've got Manchester United. I don't see much improvement this side. Look, Lenny Yoro brought in 18-year-old. You could have got him on a free next season. What happens? You pay 60 million quid for him, give it 150k a week. Ridiculous. Joshua Zirkzee, I'll be honest, I didn't see much of him at the Euros. And look, it might be a good signing to begin with, but for me, I'm kind of looking at that and I'm like, is that they've not got a strike. I'm sorry to say, if Højlund's injured, Xerxes is not the answer. I don't see Marcus Rashford playing down the middle. Jadon Sancho, is he going to go? I'm not so sure. Onana is an absolute travesty as a goalkeeper. I do not understand. The man to replace David De Gea, they bring in Andre Onana, who flaps at anything that comes his way. So, no, like I think Manchester United, they have to have a better season as well. And I'm going to say this. You do not have any confidence in Ten Hag. You brought in Ruud van Nistelrooy as a number 2.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind during this season, if things go badly, Ten Hag's out the door, Van Nistelrooy is going to take over. It's absolutely ludicrous that they've kept him on.
There's been a few sound bites in the media already about how much Ruud van Nistelrooy is impressing the players at training. And you're almost thinking, who's feeding that into the media already? Like, it's almost like that plan is there. Like,
I think as well, Manchester United are struggling to get rid of their deadwood. Like some of their players are trying to get rid of, and it's funny as well that they've gone away from Manuel Ugarte from PSG. Now I know people obviously speak about the sort of the price tag, but then Xander Berger has been spotted at Carrington training. Like, how can you go from Manuel Ugarte to PSG to Burnley's Xander Berger? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It's so interesting you've said that, Doug, because that link to Sander Berge today is what stopped me putting him into the top 4. Because it's like, you're not gonna improve it in quality enough to make that next step.
No.
The
so
recruitment's obviously not gonna be good enough.
Yep, for me, 8th West Ham, 7th Newcastle, 6th United. Craig, what's your 8th to 6th?
So, in 8th spot, and this, will be a poor season for this football club. Spent, of course, ridiculous amounts of money. Todd Boehly has gone absolutely bonkers. You know who it is. Enzo Fernandez. Is he going to play? Probably not. They signed him for 100 million. Chelsea. Firstly, Enzo Maresca. He's a manager that, of course, got Leicester City promoted. However, at one point in that season, he was 17 points clear. They should have got the points record for the championship. There is no two ways about it. They should have got it. And to be honest, they stumbled over the line. And to be honest, Chelsea, I don't actually know what they're trying to do. Well, I kind of do know what they're trying to do, actually. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to do what Bournemouth are doing on a bigger level. They're spending ridiculous amounts of money on young players. You know, Cole Palmer is probably the one player you could say, you know, is worth it. You know, worth what they've paid for him. You know, Enzo Fernandez, no. Kukurea, no. They're just an absolute mess. And why, you know, why they've had to bring in another manager at the start of this season when I think it was all coming together on the Poch. You know, they are a shit show, but they have got enough quality not to fall any lower than that. And yeah, unfortunately, they've got enough to finish in the top 8, but no higher than that. You know, finish 8th. 7th, got to agree with you, Doug. Manchester United. Eric Ten Hag shouldn't really be there. If he hadn't won the FA Cup, he wouldn't be there. They are, again, flattering to deceive. Kobe Mainu, really do rate him. But apart from that, you know, Manchester United, they're not the Man United of old. I completely agree with regards to what we've also said about Xerxes. Is he really that good? I can't. He wouldn't walk into Man City's team. You know, he wouldn't. He wouldn't even get a sniff. He'd be stuck in their reserve. So, yeah, 7th, Man United. Unfortunately, it'll probably be enough for Europe for them because I can see one of the top 4 winning the FA Cup, which of course will push it down to Manchester United. And 6th, to be honest, this is a drop off, but to be honest, it's probably, you know, their fans aren't going to be too disappointed with this. Aston Villa, I think Unai Emery's done a fantastic job. The thing that is probably going to mess them up is because the sanctions, PSR, stupid rulings. It's trying to protect, you know, and I'm going to go on a little rant here. It's trying to protect the top 6, 7 clubs, you know, and it's no, you know, I'm not having a dig at the top 6 clubs here, but what I am saying is that it's kind of Man City, for example, make lots and lots of revenue. You know, of course, they've got a sponsor that AFC Bournemouth could dream with. You know, Etihad. You know, the first thing I saw when I went to Abu Dhabi was the Manchester City plane. So coming back to Aston Villa, how can they compete with these top 6? They can't, especially with PSR, especially with the Champions League. That's going to take a bit out of them. We saw it with Newcastle. I think Villa will finish 6th. I tell you what, I will throw one thing at you, Tone, though. And here's a big question for you.
Yep.
Jack Grealish, I personally think he might go back to Aston Villa, even be it on loan.
Yeah, it won't be this summer. Pep said he's definitely staying. But look, there's big pressure on Grealish. He's been with us 3 years, and he's had 2 below standard ones, first and the last. The middle one, the treble one, is very good and very integral as to why we won that treble. But make no mistake, he's very, very key in those games. But it is a big, big season for Grealish. If he underdoes again, he'll be gone next summer.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he ever fancies a trip down to the south coast, you know, he's more than welcome at Dean Court.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of suitors, not at the money we paid, but yeah, he'd certainly be wanted.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go back to Villa Park, won't he? You know, I think if the option was there, do you want to go to Dean Court, spend some time by the seaside, or do you want to go home to Villa Park? He'd probably go. Yeah, it sounds nice, but Yeah, I'll go back to Villa Park.
Yeah, so like I think there's when we're sort of climbing sort of the table, I think these positions are quite difficult. I would say. So, Tone, what's your 8th to 6th?
8th, West Ham. I like the Kilman signing, full crew, or however you pronounce his name. Really good. Somerville he's from Leeds, and you guys have touched on them already. So there's not much I can add with the signings. I think they've had a really good summer again. Paquetá or Paqueta, however you pronounce it. It's going to be interesting what happens with him, because obviously he's in a bit of bother at the moment. So, but if he avoids whatever and his manages to play out the season, and what is very key with West Ham this season in the Premier League is they're not in Europe, which is good news for them in terms of the Premier League. So they could cause even bigger waves if things click at West Ham. They have already a good team with good attacking players, a good defence. Keeper's okay, bit dicey, but I like West Ham. I really do. I think they could really cause some trouble, and I have them as 8th. If things really click there, I could see them as high as 5th or 6th, with other teams that are sort of bouncing around. So, yeah, but on the other hand, it'd be typical West Ham that they go and finish 15th, and it just all falls to shit, and all these players don't fit. But I think they will. I think they'll finish 8th. Chelsea in 7th, they're a mess, but they have enough quality, I think, to see them around 7th, 8th, maybe 6th. I think the stuff with Poch was over transfer business, I believe, which he wanted more say, and Chelsea were like, sod off, mate. So, and fair play to Poch, he was part of it and just said, well, I'm not staying if I'm not going to get more say. If that is the case, fair play to him. I don't think Maresca will be there long. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the first sacked out the door. So, yeah, I think they'll finish 7th, possibly at best. In 6th, I've got Villa. I think Villa have bought okay. I think Barkley's quite a sneaky little one, because he was, I think he was a free transfer, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was there before as well. I remember him. I remember him scoring a goal in that famous 7-2 win over us back in the COVID season. I remember him being there. So yeah, he's had a spell at Villa before. It's an interesting signing, I think.
It is for a squad player. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to start in all the Champ League games, but as somebody who can step in, played well at Luton, seems to have got his shit together a bit. He could be a decent one. Anana cost him a bloody fortune. Maatson, he's a good player as well. That's a good addition at Villa. The only thing I struggle with Villa is they're in the Champ League now, and Newcastle found this out. And you'll have a week where you'll play Liverpool, Paris, and City, or similar such like, and it's being up for those 3 games, and it's very easy to lose the first one. Oh shit, heads down, 2, 3, and then you go to a tricky place, say Palace, and you've got to be up for these games, and it is difficult for these teams. Newcastle, like I say, Newcastle found that out. I had Villa in 6th. I'll be honest, on my initial one, I had them in 8th, and I know Ali had them lower. So yeah, I'll have them 6th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're 8th or 9th.
Interesting. And Ali, 8th to 6th for you?
I've gone West Ham for 8th. Can't stand them. I live in Essex, surrounded by West Ham fans. It's awful. They are absolutely unbearable. All those myths about them believing they won the '66 World Cup are true. At least I can now say Palace won the Olympics with Mateta and Elise. But I think their signings are really good. And I actually think the managerial appointment's very, very shrewd. I think he'll bring something a little bit different, but I think he's experienced enough and stubborn enough to not be swayed by the noise from the fans and stick to his principles. So I think West Ham 8th. I've gone Spurs in 7th. I actually contemplated going lower. I thought there were some cracks appearing at the end of the season. Personal ick of mine, I don't like seeing managers as pundits during the summer. I didn't like seeing Ange mixing in with Roy Keane and co. I think you should be in the stands doing your job. But they are really good. I mean, I went to White Hart Lane or the new ground last summer not last summer, last season, and the pace they've got at the back, and you can really see the fluidity in their football. I think Solanke will give them something else, another dimension. If he does go, obviously that's an if. So I've gone Spurs in 7th, and then I've gone Newcastle 6th. I was tempted to go higher. The only thing that stopped me going higher, because I think Gahey is an incredible signing. Like, Palace fans, as much as I've said we'll be okay without him, it was a frustrating time before the Euros when everyone was saying, Gahey can't play. We knew how good he was. He'll be a great signing. Gordon, obviously, Isaac up front, Guimaraes. But the reason why I didn't put them higher than 6 is I think they're missing something else on that right-hand side. So I'm going to keep them at 6th.
Interesting. Right. So 5th to 3rd. 5th, I got Tottenham. I think getting Solanke is going to be a very, very key signing. If they get him, then I think that's their striking role. Sort of that. I've seen Tottenham fans say it's a bit of an underwhelming signing and all this, but Archie Gray, very good signing from Leeds. I think he's obviously one for the future. They brought in I think it's a Swedish player, Bergvall. That'll be an interesting one to see as well. Yeah, I like Ange. I like what he's been doing at Tottenham, but yeah, I just think they'll miss out. I just think they'll miss out. The Europa League as well. That does do a heck of a lot as well. 4th place. This is a bit of a bold shout. I've got Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa will stay in the top 4. I've just got a very, very funny feeling about them this season, and I think Unai Emery is a very, very good manager, and he's obviously proven that as well. And what I really like about Aston Villa was Villa Park was an absolute fortress. They beat City, they beat Arsenal. It was Arsenal home and away as well. Obviously, that was probably the game that sort of said that was probably the end of Arsenal's title race as well. And I think Villa have signed very, very well. Again, I think they have, but the one thing that really worries for me is Douglas Luiz is a big, big loss. I think he is a really, really good player in that engine room. So they'll definitely miss him. And then 3rd, I've got Liverpool. I just don't see the top 3 changing at all, because I think what's happened is clubs like Manchester United, clubs like Chelsea, they've just got worse. I think they've got worse. I think if you see, look, this might well be a transitional season for Liverpool, but it's basically the same squad. A couple of additionees would be very, very nice. I think Champions League will be very, very interesting as well. But I'm not taking much away from obviously pre-season because it's difficult to say, but the signs are looking good. The signs are really, really looking good. And look, Jurgen Klopp, stepping down last season. Yes, it did hurt. But we all knew then that Arne Slot was gonna come in. So yeah, I've gone for 3rd. I've been pretty confident in myself. I don't think we're quite there yet to challenge, but give it a season or 2, you just never know. So yeah, I've gone 5th Tottenham, 4th Aston Villa, and 3rd Liverpool. So Tone, your 5th to 3rd, please.
I've got 5th Spurs. Not said with that much confidence. I know I've said that 3 or 4 teams, but I think between 5th and down and Villa and 6th and 7th and that, they could all swap round. Spurs, I agree, there were cracks starting to show, and the way they're playing is very, very open. But I think they'll make a couple more signings, and I think it's based on that and a couple of decent ones as well that will improve their squad. And I just think they'll hover around 4th, 5th. And to be fair, that's a good season for Spurs. If Ange gets them around that area, that in my view is a success for them. So I'd have Spurs there. I've actually got Newcastle in 4th, which will probably surprise some people. But again, and I made this point with somebody else, no Europe. It's huge.
Yeah.
If you're in the Premier League, you get your nice little week off while Villa and United and City and Liverpool are all in Europe. Newcastle get a nice fresh week off. Now, this is based on they must keep Isaac and Bruno G.
Yeah.
If they lose, it's certainly Bruno G's the main man captain in the middle there, and I hope they do because they'll probably come to us. But if they keep them and keep that team, I think they could be in for another good season, a bit of a bounce back for them. They've learned from the Champ League stuff.
If they keep them fit, those key players as well. Like I think Isaac's going to score bagful, like an absolute
top player.
Yeah,
top player. So yeah, I've got Spurs 5th, Newcastle 4th, a 3rd Liverpool. Now they're a funny one. Sorry, Doug. I could see them finishing anywhere between 3rd and maybe 6th. I don't know much about the new manager. I believe it's a new style, much different to Klopp. You can correct me if I'm wrong. This is only what I've been told, so that may take time. I think there are certain question marks over maybe Van Dijk now. He's not quite the same. Doug's good. Doug, you're going to choke me through the screen in a minute. And Salah, Salah's one of the best Premier League players I've ever seen. So he's unbelievable. But there were question marks over him last season. His stats were great, but the performances not quite linked up with stats. I think there's question marks in the midfield. God, what's his name? Szoboszlai. Not so sure on him. And I think when you look at that midfield compared to the other teams around you, I think Liverpool's is possibly the weakest of that sort of 4 or 5 teams. It's not all bad. I've made it sound bad. You've got an amazing keeper and so on, but it seems like a transition thing to Liverpool, so I don't see them in the title race. I just don't see them up there with City and Arsenal in terms of the points. 3rd is a good season, and if they have a solid 3rd season, get Champ League, I think that's a great job for the new guy in charge. So Liverpool 3, 4, Newcastle 5, Spurs.
Yep, 100% agree with you. I think Van Dijk is slowly reclining. I think we need to make a decision there. I think Salah's going to give us one more season, and I actually think maybe Ali maybe gives us one more season. There's been talk about that George goalkeeper, Marbadashvili from Valencia. Could be very, very intriguing to say the very, very least. But yeah, we'll see what will happen. Ali, you're 5th to 3rd.
I've gone Man United in 5th. Similar to what you said, Doug. I just don't think they've recruited well enough. I see real glimmers of like that there's something there with Ten Hag and the young players like Mainu, but like you said with the recruitment, it's just not there. I love Garnacho as well, but they just don't seem. I think FFP and all that is hindering them as well, because I mean they should have been on. And it's the same with Villa. I feel really sorry for Villa. It's their moment, because actually a club like Villa should Eze, Gahey, and Elise Villa would have been perfect for them, because they would have been guaranteed to play in Champions League football, but they haven't been able to go for these players. And Craig was a bit more polite. I think it's disgrace the protection of the top 6. But like United, I just think they won't recruit well enough, and that's been their issue. I can see what Ineos are doing, but their injury problems are hindering them already. Like 2 key injuries already with Højlund and Euro. So that's for me. This is probably my surprise. I've gone Chelsea 4 in the Champions League place. As much as I agree with you that they're a bit of a mess, I think the difference between them and a United is they have the quality, in my opinion. And there's rightfully a lot of noise around Enzo at the moment. But if there is a midfield 3, and key for me for Chelsea is Lavia coming back. Lavia, Enzo, and Casado. I think that's one of the best midfield 3 in the league, bar the top 2, and Palace with Decore, Wharton, and Eze. So I just think as well, you look at the quality in Konku, who seems to be in everyone's fantasy teams. You've got Cucurella and Palmer coming back on a high from the Euros. I think the quality's there. Now, Maresca is an interesting one, because I agree with what Craig's saying. That ending was bad, but I don't think over 100 points in that championship is to be sniffed at. And there's something there with him. Pep was sort of saying he sees where they're going. He will back him. He's a former coach and friend. But like, I just think with Chelsea, I think that when it clicks, it will click. And I wouldn't read too much into their preseason. Their preseason is shows how much preseason is now for commercial gain and not for a football sense. The last thing Maresca needed was to play Man City with a Haaland chomping at the bit, having not played in the Euros. He just needed some low down games to sort of get his system. And he's even come out and said this, that he's not had enough time to integrate his system yet. And I think when he does, I actually think we'll see Chelsea kick on. But I do at the same time agree with you. The one thing I'd say on Chelsea, and this kind of embodies their whole recruitment and their whole values as a club, Mark Gahey was at Chelsea. And they sold him to Palace for a nominal fee. And that just represents everything that is wrong with that football club, selling key academy players. But you know what's interesting is they are going to get about 15 million out of what we get from Newcastle. But with that sell-on clause, if I was Chelsea, the one thing that almost stopped me putting them in the top four was their centre-backs. I would be going back to get Gahey back. And he would also bring that leadership. He's captain Palace that they're losing in Gallagher. And I still wonder whether there'll be a twist in the tail and a late bid from them for Gahey. As much as I agree with you, Doug, I think Chelsea might actually surprise people and finish fourth. And then third, I've gone for Arsenal. And I'll keep that short. The reason why is I think the title will be won at a canter. And I think when they realise they're not going to win it, I think the team I put in come second, it will mean more to them to finish second than it will to Arsenal. So I've put Arsenal third.
Wow. I did not expect that, but I would take that. I would definitely say that. Craig, you're fifth to third?
So, my fifth place, I'm going to be a little bit boring here. Newcastle United. I think I did make the prediction, when Eddie Howe took over his first full season. I said they were going to finish third. They finished fourth. Harry Redknapp thought I was bonkers, but, I got it right that time, Harry. But, yeah, I think, this time round, I think Eddie Howe's going to struggle to get them back into those Champions League places. Very, very good squad. A very good squad. I do question whether or not Eddie will be there, long into the season, because I personally think that the FA should put out all stops to actually get him as the England manager. He's the most obvious candidate. I know he likes the 9 to 5, or as I say, 6 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening. That is Eddie Howe for you. But personally, I think the FA need to pull out all stops. So fifth for Newcastle United. Fourth, Spurs. I do like Ange. I was surprised when he come on board and took over the Spurs job. I didn't think he was going to do that great. But, he surprised me. They went a bit off the boil towards the end, I've got to be honest. But Solanke, if he does go there, unfortunately, is going to help them a lot. So I'm going to go for Spurs fourth. And third, Liverpool. And Doug, I don't know if you'll be happy with that in Onslaught's first season. I think he's got some very big shoes to fill. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. If he finishes above third, he's performed an absolute miracle considering what Jurgen Klopp, has achieved at the football club and, his legendary status. Although saying that, and I tell you what, this is something that was discussed, during my interview with Harry, and I want to throw this at you, Doug, because it's such a good point that he made. Where Jurgen Klopp went wrong was he announced mid-season that he was going to leave. Now, if he had done that just at the end of the season has concluded, because from that point, it fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest regret going away from that season, is that it should have probably been done 1 or 2 weeks before the end of the season. But it obviously gave the club the right time to sort of try and find a replacement as well. But yeah, look, I totally agree with what you were saying. I think it was a shame that it went to pot last season. But look, new ideas. Tone's absolutely right about the style of play. The style of play is completely different to Jurgen Klopp. It seems to be more out from the midfield now rather than sort of out to the winger. So that'll be very, very interesting. I do say, though, Harvey Elliott is going to have a big, big season, I think. He's looked really, really good in pre-season at the moment. And obviously, take nothing away from pre-season, but he was adding more goals to his game last season. I think if he can do that, I think he could be a very, very key part of the team. And the other question as well, where does Trent play? This is going to be the very interesting thing. Connor Bradley started every game pre-season so far.
Real Madrid? Maybe he played at Real Madrid.
Well, a lot of people are saying that he might stay or go to Real Madrid, but look, we'll wait and see. But I would not be too surprised if Bradley starts the season. I would not be too surprised if he starts the season. Right, here we go. So second and first. Well, obviously, myself, Craig, and Tone, we all know who we've got. But yeah, I'll have a curveball in there with obviously Arsenal third. So second, I've got Arsenal. This is a must-win trophy season for Mikel Arteta because the money he has spent, especially the last couple of seasons, is astronomical, and he needs to get it right. He needs to to at least bring one of the big two home: Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup. The thing is, as well, what really annoys me with Arsenal is that ever or not, when they've been going for the league, they always seem to write off the FA Cup, write off the League Cup. It's like nobody's business. It's nobody's business to do that. So I am going to say this now. I think Arteta, if he doesn't win anything this season, I think there's big question marks, and I think he could potentially go. But my champions for the 5th time in a row is Manchester City. Best team, best manager. Still, the squad that they've got is unbelievable. De Bruyne looks like he's staying. Ederson looks like he's staying. Obviously Alvarez is now, going. I think Man City have managed to get 81.5 million, which is unbelievable money for the money that they spent for Alvarez. £14 million. He's won everything, hasn't he? Won World Cup, Copa America, Premier League. You can name it, and as well, Holland is still firing as well, and I've just got a feeling that City are just going to do it again. I've just got a funny feeling that they're going to do it again, and I kind of agree with Ali. I think this could be a season where Arsenal really maybe drop off. Obviously, I don't want it. I don't want it to, because we had a fantastic title race last season, but it could be potentially that. So yeah, second Arsenal, first Manchester City. I know I've got City as champions this time. So Ali, I know one of your top two, but what order have you got them?
I got Man City winning the league, and I got Liverpool in second. The reason why I went for Liverpool for second is, like you, I think City will win it at a canter, and I think it will mean more to Slot in his first season to make a statement and be second and seem closer, and also to those players to feel like they're getting closer again. Whereas I think psychologically for Arsenal, there'll be a point towards the end where they realise we ain't going to do this. And I think it's going to be hard for them to come back after getting 89 points, which, to be fair, would have won many a league, and then to go again. What I do say, the caveat I would say is I think under Arteta, it's when, not if, they win the Premier League. I think they will eventually, and I think this is Pep's last. This is Pep's last season, in my opinion. And I think when Pep goes, Arteta's going to swoop in. But I think what I like about Liverpool, I know you're saying Slot's making those changes in style, which he's going to do, is what I like is the reason he said one of the reasons they haven't bought anyone yet is he wanted to go in and look at the squad. And I think the best managers, when you are replacing someone like Jurgen Klopp, you don't go in and rip up everything. That's the mistake David Moyes made when he went into Ferguson. When Ranieri won the league at Leicester, the story goes that he just watched training for a week. I like that, what's coming out along those lines. I just think Liverpool as well have a great squad. I think you need to try and keep hold of Trent Alexander. I think he's a unique player. I think it's an absolute disgrace that the way Southgate used him. Even when we went to wing backs, he didn't use him as a right wing back. I think that goes down for me as when we shunted Scholes to the left. I think we are the only nation who wouldn't play Trent Alexander. I really do. It's particularly when playing wing backs. I think it's an utter disgrace. And I just think as well, McAllister pulling strings. The player I think will have a real great season. This is my big prediction. And I'm going to bring in fantasy football here as a solution to whether you go with Haaland or Salah. I think Luis Diaz is going to have a really good season. I think he had a lot going on last season personally with his dad and things like that. I think he's going to score a few goals. And I've actually, little exclusive, got him in my fantasy football team. So I think that's where I'm at with Liverpool. I just think that finishing second will mean more to them than Arsenal. And I do think Arsenal will do well in the Champions League, actually. I think they'll learn from that experience last season. So Liverpool second. I just think Man City, they're just too good. Like, even when we were on that form and we were seeing off teams like United and whatever and easily and beating Liverpool away under Glasner, Man City came to Selhurst Park and were just too good. They are unbelievable. And I think you've got some players there with some real points to prove, like Jack Grealish, who I personally, going back to Southgate, think it was an utter disgrace that you couldn't find a place for him in a 26-man squad, particularly when you look at our football and how it lacked fluidity. People talk about his assists and his goals, but it's not really his game now. I think it's a shame because I think Pep stripped the maverick in him a lot, but he's sort of the assist before the assist now. And I think he's got a massive point to prove, which he's admitted in a press conference. I think actually Phil Foden has got a point to prove because he was poor at the Euros and he knows that people were talking about him. Personally, I would have dropped him. And I actually think Haaland, strangely enough, has a bit of a point to prove because people were saying, about his build-up play, Roy Keane, obviously with the ridiculous League One statement. But I think you're going to see more of Haaland the first season. I think with it being Pep's last season and young players like Bob, Mekate coming through, I think they'll win it at Cantor. I think, honestly, I think it'll be a bit boring. I think the more fun will be who finishes in fourth because I think there's some good shouts, with, like everyone said, with Spurs, Newcastle. I think Newcastle are really, I think Tone made a really good point about them not being in Europe. Liverpool second and Man City at Cantor first for me. Unless they get done for cheating and corruption and are relegated. I mean, they could come bottom. And we could all be wrong here. They could be bottom. But do you know what would be interesting? Say they got deducted 10 points, right? Or 12 points. Imagine if they still won the league. They had that good a season.
Yeah, they're a juggernaut. I keep saying it. They're an absolute juggernaut. So Tone, I think I know where you're going with this one, but what is your top two?
I said I was biased, didn't I? Arsenal second. I get about the drop off that Ali was saying as well. They've added that defender. Well, they're already good at the back anyway. They've arguably got the best defence in the league. Arsenal got certainly the two centre backs are very, very good. I always look at the teams at the top and say who, and try not to be biased. Say who gets in City's team out of that Arsenal team, and I look around at what City have got in midfield and up front. Odegaard is a good player. He's not as good as De Bruyne. They've got Jesus and Havertz up front. That's not going to get it done. We've got Haaland. And now you look at the options. Well, I think if Arsenal got a top striker, although there's not many about, but if they did get a top striker, then I would be more inclined. I'm just still not seeing it. Havertz and Jesus are not going to get it done, and they rely on the defence, which is fine. Declan Rice is a top player, really, really good player. Really like Declan Rice. But to me, Arsenal still have those players that are not turning up at the biggest crunch times. Saka, he had a good Euros. Arguably England's best players, but don't give a toss. It's all well and good turning up when you're 2-up at home to Ipswich or whoever and doing a couple of fancy back heels, a couple of assists for your fantasy team. Great. Saka, Odegaard, all those players have to be turning up at Anfield, at Man City, Tottenham, Newcastle, all these other ones. To be fair, they did all right at Tottenham last year. But you see where I'm going. Those players have still yet to go and deliver consistently and win games when it really matters. That Villa one last year, no one took it by the scruff of the neck. They had to win that game. They had to beat Villa. They were in the driving seat and they bottled it again. Odegaard just disappeared. Saka did nothing. And that cannot happen. When City, as you will well know, Doug, with Liverpool, when we, the last 16 games, we won them all. And we had to, because you won them all. And it was that sort of battle. And City, when we've got 10 games to go, people go, City are in third. City are in second. They're 7 points off the top. It's like, yeah, but we've been here before. We can win 10, 12, 14, 16 games and win them all at the end. I'm not convinced Arsenal can. I don't think they have the mentality, and I think that's their biggest block. And I still think it's a block, and I still think they miss a striker, and I still think they don't have the balls in midfield to when it really counts. And they've spent a lot of money. You touched on it earlier. I think they're past 800 million now under Arteta. So he is under enormous pressure. Like you said, he has to win, in my view, the league or the Champ League. The same pressure we were put under when we spent that money. Everyone said City have got to win the league. They have to, or they failed. Champ League, City have to win it. No, Arsenal are now in that spot now. If their team's as good as their fans say it is, they should be walking this title anyway. So I think they'll finish second, but it wouldn't surprise me if they dropped off maybe into third. But yeah, the top is City again. I'm a City fan, so that's not going to surprise anyone. But Ali, great point, excellent point. There are players there, believe it or not, that actually largely underperformed. I said this on a show recently that I thought City were about a 6 out of 10 last season in the Premier League in terms of their overall performance, which is mad because we won the league. Whereas Arsenal, I thought, were about a 9, 8, 9 up until the end when they started to falter. Arsenal were the best team in the league up until April time. They were excellent and looked strong. But City just have that instinct and that mentality now where they've won and won and won and won. And I just think they have it ingrained. And I think, like you say, the players have something to prove. Kyle Walker was very poor last season. Ruben Diaz wasn't quite at his best. John Stones, when he was playing, wasn't quite at his best. Bernardo wasn't at his best. Haaland had a couple of knocks and stuff. De Bruyne was out for 6 months. Rodri's phenomenal. But there are lots of other Doku. Doku, mixed bag. Mainly good, but still a mixed bag. He's probably ready now for the step up to see what Pep's going to do with him now. Savio's been added. Looks a good player out on the wing. So we've got options now out wide of Bob, Savio, Grealish, Bernardo, Doku. And in the middle we've got Foden, De Bruyne, Rodri. It's not too shabby really. And the only question mark I have with City, and I said this at the start, is the mentality. Can they keep winning? Can they keep going to Ipswich and these places and winning and these huge games at Arsenal and so on and seeing it through? Because they've won so much.
A difference between you at the start of the season and to the end, because I was at Man City last season where it was the most bizarre game. Like it was one of Roy Hodgson's worst performances. We were 2-0 down and bizarrely got it back to 2-2.
Yeah.
And then the end of the, I remember walking back into Manchester City Centre and my mate's like, how did that even happen? And then at the end, when we were top form with Glasner, you were just unbelievable. It was just like, this is ridiculous. Like the likes of Rodri and Haaland that day, it was actually just a privilege to sit there and watch you. But I just think, like you said, they'll just come through at the end. But I think maybe they'll be on it more from the start. With what I think, do you think it's Pep's last season?
No, I do think if you'd have asked me this a month or two ago, I would have agreed with you. But there's little things I've heard in and around that tells me that he's going to extend by 2 years. And again, any City fans watching this, don't think that's golden and start going down the bookies. Do not. It's just speculation because they do. Some do. I think he'll stay. The thing with Pep is, where does he go? International job, fine. Yeah, the New York thing, but is he ready? Is he that?
I don't think he'd be a good international manager. I know that sounds bizarre. I don't think he'd have enough time to implement his ideas.
Yeah, and I've made that. Yeah, it's a good point. I've made that point that he needs time with players to get that. New York now, maybe in a few years, but now not so sure. Italy,
I think Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, I don't
He's
know
in an interview saying he'd love to learn French.
He does love Paris, but he's got apartments in New York, and his daughter's always there, and they live there, and his wife's always there. I think he will end up in New York at some point. I just don't really see, just in my view, he's done Spain, he's done Germany, he's conquered here. I just don't really see where. I mean, I would say that, and I'm more in hope that he stays, but I just don't see right now for the next few years where else he'd go that would offer him what City offer him. But again, he's probably more in delusion and hope, because I will be crying for probably an entire week when he goes.
And if you do get sent to the conference after this hearing, that'd be a great challenge for him to get you back up.
Yeah.
So,
It will. Haaland might score a few goals down there as well.
Yeah, I think I think what's been obviously discussed is absolutely spot on. I think you've got to say that I think I've been thinking of maybe Pep's last season as well, but obviously you've seen, you know what X is like. There's going to be speculation from here now until the end of the season, and it's going to be that big question: will he sign? Will he know? So yeah, like I think for me, City are still the best team as well. So that leaves Craig. What is your top two?
Throw in a curveball. Come on.
So in second spot. Sorry, Tone. It's Man City.
No way.
Manchester City second.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
I think hand on heart.
You wanted your curveball?
Yeah. Hand on heart. Yeah. But it does come with a positive curveball as well. I think you'll win the Champions League. I think you'll win the Champions League. So the focus will be taken off the Premier League, put onto the Champions League. I think it will be Pep's last season. In my honest opinion, I think, that would be going out on a high, winning the Champions League a second time with Manchester City. And I think he'll probably do that. And I know this sounds this is probably not what you want to hear. He'll probably do it because he knows what is coming next is not particularly too good. And what I mean by coming next is points deductions, slap on the wrist, not being able to sign players, lots and lots of restrictions. I think that's probably, and I'm sorry to say it, Tone, I think that's the way it's probably going to go, because the Premier League have made a rod for their own back here. Because they've charged Everton and Nottingham Forest, I think that the pressure will be up on them. And it's not just Manchester City, it will be Chelsea as well. Chelsea will be taken to the cleaners, if not worse, for what they've done and, messing around with long contracts and trying to cheat the system. So although I live in a world where I wouldn't like any points deductions. I'd like to, I spoke to Harry about it, and he said, he'd rather it just be done on the pitch. If, say, for example, a club has got a millionaire owner, why not allow them to spend? Why not allow them to spend? Yeah, it has to come to something. And where the restrictions have to be put in is a situation like at Everton. That's where because what we've now got is Aston Villa, who've got money. They're trying to push into the top four. Fair enough. They got there last season. To keep themselves there, they would need to invest a little bit more. That goes without saying, because the top teams are going to get stronger. And they're told that they can't because of PSR. And that is going to be the big problem. That's why I think I even forgot. How do I forget his name? Because I tell you what, I can't stand him. The chief executive of the Premier League. I've said his name so many times. Richard Masters. Richard Masters. That's it.
Not anymore, is it?
So, although, Everton got a wrap and Forest got a wrap, I think that's why City will get a wrap.
And Leicester are probably going to get one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Leicester will get one.
The only argument I would have with that is they are different, completely different charges. What we're being hit with, the 115 things a nice little headline for the papers. The serious ones are around 4 of them, and it's more around the accounting periods and what we reported back. The only thing I would say on this is the Premier League, you said of Rod for their own back, you're absolutely right. The Premier League don't only have to prove that Manchester City and people at Manchester City have done falsified accounts or whatever. They have to prove that the auditors were in on it, that they knew about it and signed that all off. They've then got to prove that the Etihad, Etisalat and all these other ones were also in on it. So all their chief execs from all these companies, it's a web of deceit that the Premier League have to prove. Not that, there was an email and City said this.
Yeah.
Just because something's written in an email is not proof that it's done. I might write you an email saying, I climbed Mount Everest today. It doesn't mean I've done it. So, look, I'm not saying City are innocent. I haven't got a clue. I don't know. No idea at all. But it's not as simple as maybe the Everton case, where Everton admitted they'd done wrong. Or was it Forest? One of them admitted that they'd done wrong and got charged for it. And City are saying we're absolutely innocent. The Premier League are saying otherwise, which is fine. But the City case is much, much more complex, which is why it's going on so long. And it is a web of deceit. And that was from someone I know who's a lawyer.
How are they going to do that? I mean, it's a kangaroo court. It's a kangaroo court. I mean, it seemed like they were making it up, the points deductions as it went along last season.
Well, I don't know if you know Stefan, who's a City fan. He's on TalkSport and stuff, a lawyer, really good. Or that's his background. I think he's a lawyer. Terrific, knows his stuff, and he's not biased towards City at all. He will say if he thinks City have cooked. But even he says they have to prove that, I can't remember who the auditors are, is it Deloitte or somebody? They are literally involved and said, City, I'll just sign it off. And people at the Etihad and all this sort of stuff are all there saying, we know all about this. That's what the Premier League have to prove. And that's going to be very, if it's true, that is going to be extremely difficult to fundamentally prove that all those people are guilty.
That's really interesting. I've not really had the time to research it. It's quite interesting to hear. The other thing I was to ask is, I actually thinking about it, is I think Pep, like Craig saying, winning the Champions League, I think that's more... If it is his last season, that would be bigger for his legacy than winning another Premier League, because 2 Champions Leagues would enshrine them like that. But like he won it twice with Barcelona, whereas he's already winning it 5 to winning it 4 in a row, really, in the Premier League. So he might be more inclined to go for those 2 Champions League wins to cement it that this Man City's got to win it twice.
Yeah, but I'll just quickly say, so I won't bore everyone anymore with the 115 stuff, the headline. But it is interesting to read. It's very, very complex case. And people say, well, bloody Forest got charged within a week. Completely different cases. This is not the same. Some of it's time restriction stuff that if they're found guilty, they'll get a slap on the wrist. 10 million fine, like Casted. No one cares about that. Obviously, the rivals are saying relegate the sods, and if they are found guilty and there is proof and everyone's involved and this whole thing comes crashing down, they'll be in for it more than a points deduction. They will be in for it big time. But purely based on what I've read and who I spoke to and the people who work in that industry, it's nigh on impossible to prove if they are guilty, because you're bringing everybody down. You're literally saying to people at the Etihad, the chief exec, whoever it is, who owns it, whatever, that they are involved in it and they knew about it. You're talking elite businessmen.
I mean, and then the other point is, Man City will definitely appeal.
Oh, yes.
So how long will the appeal take?
Yeah. Another 20
that's
years.
where it will annoy me, because then the season, I hated all that appeal stuff last season. It just came an absolute chaos. Like you even felt sorry for Luton, because they had to try and work out what they needed to do to stay up. I think I hate the whole. I can see why FFP and all that's in there, but I don't like the points deductions, because it's very hard to sort of read the season, and I prefer it was on the pitch, like Harry Redknapp was. So
Yeah, but Newcastle are also a prime example of a team got in the Champ League, could invest like Villa. Let's go and invest now. Go and spend another 150 million. Why not? Man United can,
Yeah.
City can, whoever. Why can't we? We've got the money. Champ League. No, you can't. They brought in a rule in December 22 to stop Newcastle going in January, and that they call as a joke the Newcastle rule, which stopped them buying a midfielder because they lost that player to gambling or whatever, and they wanted to go out and sign someone. They couldn't afford it because this brand new rule that was brought in a month prior. It's an absolute joke, and City are part of that big group. I get it, but it must be very annoying for teams like Newcastle and Villa, who are there sat there going, well, Man United finished 8th last year, they're going to go and spend another 200 million this window. Why can't we do it? We finished 4th or 3rd. They're quite right. They're absolutely spot on. Why can't they?
Yeah, Mark
Sorry, little
McAdam.
rant there.
No, no. To be honest, Tone, I do understand, and I spoke to Mark McAdam going back last season, and I was very much, and the Everton fans for some reason really, they really like me, because I did stand up for them on several occasions, like I think most football fans did, because I think what was happening with Everton, their owners are shit. We know that. Yeah, they play shithousery football. Yeah, we know that. Okay, Liverpool fans aren't going to like them particularly, but at the same time, Liverpool fans that I spoke to, one of my mates turned around and said, you know what, I hope Everton don't go down, because they've been robbed of their place. So I stood up for them. With regards to the Man City situation, I was very much of, and like Man City got these 115 charges, and Everton, have been hit for 2. How can you hit Everton for 2 and not hit Man City? When you look at it a little bit deeper, this is what Mark McAdam said. There is a lot of minor administrative errors in there. There's a lot of them, mainly because there's a lot of money being passed around from pillar to post. But there is some naughty things in there as well, which will probably and should probably result in a punishment akin to Everton. Like I say, I'd rather we don't, results aren't decided on points deductions.
That might make it exciting if it's like 6-10 points.
No,
Could City still do it despite the points deduction?
Honestly, I just don't want to see it, because Man City.
I don't want to see it either, but it'd be mad if they still won it, even with a points deduction.
Hand on heart, I don't begrudge Man City this success at all, because I remember them, playing us in the old Division 2. We got a draw, didn't we? Actually, Lee Bradbury played for Man City that day.
I remember him well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He played for Palace.
Didn't you go down to 9 men and we still couldn't beat you? We got such a bad record against you. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember a game many years ago when we drew 3-3, and I think we were 3 up and you come back to 3-3 at Main Road. But yeah.
I think it was that season, because you got relegated to the old Division 2, now League 1. I think it was one season you went straight back up, didn't you, for the playoffs?
Right. Yeah.
But
Gillingham.
yeah. But yeah, went down to 9 men. We still can't beat Man City. But I think my title winners this season, are Arsenal, and the reason being is what Mikel Arteta would be doing. I like Mikel Arteta. There's Arsenal fans that go, oh, Mikel Arteta won't win a single thing. I think he will. What he is doing is he's kind of modifying the last couple of pieces of the jigsaw. Don't get me wrong, they're not going to walk away with it like Man City have. It is going to be close. It's going to be tight. But I think Arsenal will get it right, because they'll. One thing that a football coach said to me, we just got beat in a cup final, and I was devastated, pissed off, you name it. I think I kicked a cone or something, But what they said was bottle that up and then take it into next season. And
Yeah.
that is what Arsenal will do. Yeah, don't get me wrong. My Sunday league team didn't get to the cup final, so I couldn't have actually got put it right. But I think Arsenal will be thereabouts. They will bottle that up, and I think they'll push forwards. And like I say, Man City will have that added attention of the Champions League, which I think, Tone, you would probably say is if it is Pep's last season, it's probably quite a decent compromise.
The only added variable is,
Yeah.
Doug, do you think Liverpool are actually going to sign anyone?
Yes, I do. I think there's movement. I think they're doing business behind the scenes, and I like that. It's away from all the journalists, etc. Fabrizio Romano, fair play to what he does. He makes his money from tweeting rubbish. Let me just say that. But he makes his money by doing that. David Ornstein, I think, is a very, very good journalist. But I like the fact that Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards have basically gone behind the scenes and they're thinking, right, where we need to evaluate, see what players are out there, and I think they're just doing it behind closed doors. And I think that's the way we signed Fabinho behind closed doors.
What positions do you reckon you're buying?
I think CDM is massive. I think we need that. I'd even say, I think a right winger. I think we need a solid right winger to sort of replace Salah when he eventually does go. I mean, if Tone's going to be upset when Pep goes, I'm going to be even more sad when Mo Salah leaves, because he has been unbelievable. Probably one of the best right wingers in Premier League history. But look, we've got a fascinating season ahead.
The 10 position covered, because out of all the top teams, I actually see a space for Eze. I'd love to see him sandwiched in between Salah and Diaz.
That would be quite something. That would be quite something. But as I said earlier, I do think Harvey Elliott's going to have a bigger season, and it could very well be that's the case. But we're at the end of the show. I mean, thank you very much for everyone who's obviously listened on till now. Yes, I thought I would do a big show because it's nice to discuss Premier League teams. It's nice to discuss the season ahead, and obviously I wouldn't have been able without these guys as well. So Ali, thank you very much for coming on the show. Tell the people where they can find you.
Pride of South London, Fan TV. Yeah, come along. Do a lot of match reactions and a lot of crowd shots right next to the Fanatics and stuff like that on the old YouTube short. So yeah, come and check it out. Pride of South London, Fan TV. And thanks for having me on. I love coming on this one. Thank you, Doug.
It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure to have you once again. And yeah, I'll definitely get you before now, definitely. Craig, thank you very much for coming on as well. Tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find us by typing in UTCIAD into YouTube. We're on Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your Spotify wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be on there. But do go and check out the season preview show with Harry Redknapp. And we've also had 3 very special guests for the 3 promoted teams. Omid Taliji for Ipswich, believe it or not. He supports them as well as Chelsea. Tiff Nadell, if anybody's watched old Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson as well, he was the original, and I've got a little surprise as well coming up in October from Tiff, but also will be on the channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that in October. And Tom Meehan, who was formerly of Kasabian as well. So yeah, do come and check us out, have a watch of them, let us know what you think, subscribe if you want as well. It is always free, isn't it?
Absolutely is. And Tone, thank you very much for coming on. Top guy, absolute top bloke. Please go and check his Twitter out. All the know for Manchester City, and I know you're getting into podcasting as well. It's great to get you on there. But tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, just on Twitter or X now, isn't it? MCFC Tone, as the thing says there at the bottom in the purple. I tend to go on other people's shows, and I do my own Spaces thing with another City fan. So I'm on Twitter really, and just jump on the other shows. Never a Foul and Judge Mo and LB and all these other ones. City fans will know about City Loop TV and City Bevo. There's bloody loads of them. There's about it's about a dozen of them, and but I think about 8 of them want me on a weekly panel show, which that's not going to go down well with the other half. So I need to start cutting down my time with the weekly shows. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on, mate.
It's a pleasure. And yeah, thank you to everyone who keeps listening. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, it's a long ass one, but it is a Premier League predictions show. And yeah, fascinating season ahead. 10 days or 9 days to go. Bring it on again. Bring it on again. From the 4 of us, it is goodbye, and we'll see you very, very soon. Take care. Bye bye for now.
Bye.